Democratic Party of Evanston, it is great to be with you, and I am very much looking forward to the event on January 25th. My name is Jonathan Dean, and I'm running for the United States Senate because I want a better future for my kids, for all of our kids. And frankly, I have lost my patience. I first want to briefly introduce myself and talk about why I'm in this race. I'm an activist, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an adventurer, I'm a litigator, and I'm a proud survivor of childhood sexual abuse. And I say that to say this. I've battled bullies, the perpetrators from my childhood, in court. I know the value of toughness, having lived it, while also understanding the need for compassion. And we need someone who has both qualities. You can find my complete bio on my website, deanforil.com. My main objective, being in this Senate race, is to bring a way more aggressive approach to selling Democratic Party policies and combating and countering Republican misinformation and nonsense. I'm happy to talk about policy all day long, and we can, and I'll get to that in a second here, but the person in this Senate seat has to be an effective and charismatic salesperson for Democratic Party policy, whether it be focusing on economic policy, judicial appointments, or just fighting back against Trump. And I think that you are only going to get that by electing a young person, by electing somebody who can be quick on their feet, somebody who's unafraid to take and answer tough questions, and somebody who can mount a robust and effective social media strategy to further Democratic Party priorities. Regarding Trump's judicial nominees, I would vote against all of Trump's remaining judicial appointments. Not so much because he has appointed so many, but I think better to say that the people he appoints are just not qualified to be judges. And they're not qualified for two main reasons. First, many of them are members of the Federalist Society. Second, many of them are just not committed to honoring the rule of law as we know it in this country. So first, let's start with the Federalist Society judges. The Federalist Society is a conservative legal society founded in 1982 on the premise of rolling back legal reforms that were made between 1935 and 1980, specifically from the New Deal and the Warren Court. So think about the administrative state, Roe versus Wade, birth control, rights of criminal defendants, including Miranda warnings, and environmental, food, and corporate regulations, just to name a few topics. And let's pause for a second to contemplate how wildly inappropriate that mission is for an organization that purports to support the rule of law, because the law is and has always been a progressive process where subsequent court decisions are built on previous ones. Courts are not supposed to strike down previous decisions except under compelling circumstances, and courts are supposed to respect and give deference to statutes passed by Congress and regulations that are passed by administrative agencies. The Federalist Society has been founded to actively subvert those core tenets of American law. So any judge affiliated with the Federalist Society, in my opinion, is not qualified. And then there are dozens of other judges who are just wildly unqualified, even if they are not in the Federalist Society. And I would love to tick through examples like Eileen Cannon, Matthew Kacsmaryk, Emile Beauvais, or some of the Seventh Circuit judges Trump has appointed right here in Chicago, but I want to conserve my time. Regarding a minimum monthly income, I am in favor of it, and it is going to absolutely be needed with the growth of automation and artificial intelligence. We do not need our children growing up to a world of little economic opportunity, significant automation, and even more massive wealth inequality than we already have right now. Establishing a minimum monthly income coincides with another one of my policy goals, which is remaking economic policy to be focused on serving everyday people rather than the top 1% and wealthy corporations. Specifically, to end trickle-down economic policy and instead give everyday people the tax breaks and fill that tax gap by increasing taxes on corporations and wealthy folks who are most capable of paying. So that's a long way of saying that tax rates will need to dramatically change in order to establish a minimum monthly income. Regarding the committee assignments that I would seek for my major committee assignments, I would seek to be appointed to first the Judiciary Committee in order to scrutinize judicial appointments, as I outlined earlier in this video that I would do, as well as propose reforms to reestablish the Department of Justice's credibility after the Trump administration. I would also seek to be appointed to the Energy and Natural Resources Committee to work on supporting the solar and wind industries and the energy transition to clean energy, as well as support Illinois' continued leadership in this area. For my joint committee assignment, I would seek to be appointed to the Joint Economic Committee, which is a place that I would seek to roll back trickle-down economic policy and fight for a more fair fiscal policy that's more supportive for everyday people. Regarding ways to get more voters engaged in the Democratic Party, this goes back to what I was saying in my opening statement about engaging new voters with better messaging, but I want to expound on it a little bit more. Democrats need young candidates to be excited about, period. Politics now, more than ever, I think, is a cult of personality. And if there is a personality out there, and I am in this race because I think it can be me, there's a personality out there who can excite and fire up young people, then we need to lift that candidate up. I do not believe that there are any kind of like new tactics or efforts that an older establishment politician who's been around for 10 or so years can take that will suddenly kind of magically excite young people and get them energized, especially after those 10 years have left us in the place that we are now, including, for example, by supporting the war in Gaza and or voting for a ban of TikTok, which is the most popular social media app for young people. And when we have politicians who are just saying the same old thing that they have for the past 10 years, which clearly hasn't moved the needle considering the situation that our country is in, Republicans already know that playbook. The rest of us are bored by it, and the monotony of all of it is just not going to bring any kind of new excitement into the party. So, Democratic Party of Evanston, you have a tremendous opportunity with this endorsement process to lift up an exciting new young candidate. Regarding actions that a U.S. senator can take to fight the abuses of this Trump administration, this is a topic that I touched on in my opening statement about messaging and political strategy, but I want to expound on it a little further here. Folks such as U.S. senators who have a platform have an enormous ability to drive a narrative about policy and government priorities. And unfortunately, it is rare that I have seen a Democratic Party senator effectively use that platform. There are a few exceptions I've seen this year. Chris Murphy and Bernie Sanders are pretty good at it. Also, Elisa Slotkin and Mark Kelly, their video about illegal orders to the military, that did an excellent job at driving a conversation about that issue. There needs to be way more of that. More of Democrats effectively and creatively leveraging their platforms and social media to drive a conversation about the abuses of this administration, and less of Democrats who want to keep a low profile or who fail to take strong stands on moral issues, for example, such as excessive force and violation of constitutional rights by ICE. And you know what? I have news for Democrats who are scared to take those strong stands on issues. You know what? Republicans are going to attack us no matter what we do. So we might as well be out there driving a narrative, taking strong stances, and then strongly defending ourselves against Republican attacks. Okay, with these questions concluded, I first and foremost want to thank you for your time in watching my video. I know that there's a lot of videos, and I really appreciate your time and your consideration. I am humbly asking for your endorsement and your support in this primary process. Thank you.